Hi there, my name is Alex, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about high-calorie malnutrition and thiamine deficiency. So let me share my screen here real quick. All right, so let's get started. What is high-calorie malnutrition? It can be defined as the overloading of our cells' mitochondrial capacity to process ATP, which is our common currency of energy in the body, with foods that are high in caloric macronutrients, so high in fat, protein, and carbohydrates, and low in micronutrients, so low in vitamins and minerals. And these foods also have added stressors such as excess sugars, trans fats, chemicals that need to be detoxed from the body. And a pretty good example of one of these foods would be this lovely hamburger that this fellow is eating down at the bottom of the screen. So high calorie malnutrition causes three hits on the body. First is metabolic overload. And this can be something like excess carbohydrate consumption leading to hyperglycemia. And these high levels of sugars in the blood are dangerous if prolonged. And so the body needs to get these sugars out, and it does unfortunately use a lot of resources in order to do that. And so if you're constantly in a hyperglycemic state, that can be extremely taxing on the body. Also, we have detox demands with some of these chemicals and other damaging products that might be in these foods that I'm talking about. They all need to be ridded of the body in order to maintain proper homeostasis. And then, of course, absence of nutrients, which is probably the biggest and most important hit on the body. And that is, when we don't have enough nutrition, we don't have enough vitamins and minerals, we just cannot function as an organism, as a human being. And so the combination of these three results in metabolic inefficiency, inflexibility, and we become more susceptible to getting sick. Our mitochondria hold the key to whether we are healthy or ill. And this is due to the fact that they are extremely important in how we make our energy, how we make our ATP. And modern diet and lifestyle are leading to the depletion of the nutrition, these nutrients that are required in order to make this energy. And when you don't make enough energy, you become sick. It's really that simple. So I want to take an opportunity to compare a nutrient-dense food to a non-nutrient-dense food. So we have egg yolks and French fries and their macronutrients per 100 grams. And you can see they have fairly similar content when it comes to fat, protein, and carbohydrates. Obviously, French fries will have more carbohydrates than the egg yolks. However, they are very similar in total caloric content, only a difference of around 28 total calories. Now, when you look at the micronutrient content, is a completely different story. In the egg yolk, we have 191 micrograms of vitamin A compared to 0 absorbable vitamin A in French fries. Huge difference in these two B vitamins I have here. Also vitamin D, 218 IUs compared to 0 vitamin D in the French fries. And then iron, choline, and selenium, a huge difference. So, we can get into a whole nother story about why people choose one food over another, arguments about how safe it is for this thing or that. But when you just are looking at the macronutrient and micronutrient content of a food, the proof is in the pudding and the choice is obvious. So something to keep in mind here. Now I want to take an opportunity to talk about the Krebs cycle, or the citric acid cycle. And this is how we make our energy, how we make our ATP. Now, it's obviously a very complicated cycle here, lots of different steps and molecules involved. But I just want to focus on the top portion here with the red arrow, and that is the transfer from pyruvic acid or pyruvate to acetyl-CoA. So here we have that summarized here. We have coenzyme A, NAD, and such, but keep an eye on this TPP here with the arrow. TPP stands for thiamine pyrophosphate, and this is the usable form of thiamine in the body. What is thiamine? Thiamine is vitamin B1, and thiamine is a very important micronutrient that is essential for energy metabolism. It also acts as a sort of conductor for other B vitamins. If you don't have enough thiamine in the blood or being absorbed into the cells, you also cannot absorb your other B vitamins as well. So really important there, and also necessary for repairing the myelin sheath in all of your nerves throughout your body. So extremely important. Now, if you'll recall, going back to pyruvate acetyl-CoA right here and the need for thiamine, if you are deficient in thiamine, you are basically stuck at the very beginning of this energy cycle. And so if you don't have enough thiamine, you are basically not going to be making enough energy to function properly. And so that can be really problematic. And when you aren't making the proper amount of ATP because you don't have enough of the resources for it, your body has to go into plan B, which is its backup source of energy, also known as the lactic acid pathway. And it's much less efficient and can be very harmful if you're stuck in this pathway in a long period of time. And I talk about this in another video, in my chronic fatigue video. I definitely recommend checking that one out, and I can explain that more. 72% and 64% of type 1 and type 2 diabetics are thiamine deficient. And so this is, a pretty significant portion of our population, in at least in the Western world. Many people and more people are becoming diabetic. And, so this just goes to show how common thiamine deficiency is, and nobody is really talking about it in general. So it really is a huge problem that needs addressing right away. The most common classic disease of thiamine deficiency is known as beriberi. And beriberi is very complex. It has many different symptoms. It's often been called the great imitator. And it has two different forms. It has a wet form and a dry form. The dry form is related to nerves and muscles, and the wet form is related to cardiac and heart and blood health. So you just get into a few of the symptoms here. Ataxia, we have edema. I have a picture down here with some serious edema, serious swelling in the lower leg. And we have a finger placed there, and the finger is removed, and it leaves a white spot there and a hole left from the placement of the finger. So we have ocular nerve abnormalities, high cardiac output, so elevated heart rate, constipation, nausea. We have POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, which is similar to edema, although it has additional symptoms, including blood pooling in the lower legs and an elevated heart rate. Somebody with POTS can have their heart running a marathon, you could say, every single day, overworking. And then dysautonomia is a very classic one as well. And dysautonomia is essentially the dysfunction of the autonomic nervous system. And the autonomic nervous system has two parts, which is the parasympathetic, or rest and digest, and the sympathetic, which is our fight or flight. Now, with our current lifestyle being very stressful, filled to the brim with things we have to do all day, people who get an imbalance in their autonomic nervous system tend to lean more towards the sympathetic. And you can see this in trouble with digestion, trouble with incontinence, trouble with heartbeat, even trouble with sexual health. It can show up in a number of different ways, and it's actually quite more common than many people think it is. I have some other symptoms we can go over here: lack of tear production, inability to regulate temperature, moodiness, anorexia, balance issues, holding of the breath. And one thing to note here, with any thiamine deficient person, it is extremely difficult to reverse without proper supplementation. And this is because there are not very many foods that have high levels of thiamine. Now, pork has decent levels of thiamine, and the thiamine is fairly bioavailable and absorbable. However, you'd have to eat a significant amount of pork every single day, several pounds of it every single day, in order to actually get enough of that thiamine to reverse these conditions. So with that being said, are there any supplements available that can be helpful in reversing thiamine deficiencies? And it just so happens that there are a couple very good ones, actually. First, we have thiamine hydrochloride. It's a very basic form of thiamine. It's not really absorbed as well as the others. It can be helpful for some people. However, if you are dealing with a very significant case of beriberi, dysautonomia, other nervous system conditions that require thiamine, you may be better off with the other two I'm about to talk about. Next up, we have benfotiamine, which is a very, very quality thiamine supplement, and that is because it's a fat-soluble version of thiamine. And this is really great for nerve health because our nervous systems are mostly made of fatty tissue. And when the thiamine is in its fat-soluble form, it is easily absorbable in these cells that need it most. So it's going directly into the nerve cells that really need it, and that can create really great fast healing for those folks. And we also have thiamine tetrahydrofurfuryl disulfide, or TTFD, also known as allithiamine. And this is similar to benfotiamine, but it also is different in that it crosses the blood-brain barrier. So it's better for conditions of the brain, such as Parkinson's or dementia. Although it does work in very similar ways in benfotiamine. It will go throughout the body, but it's typically better suited for the brain tissues. So, this is just one case of one vitamin or one micronutrient that can be caused deficiency by high calorie malnutrition. And there are so many other cases and illnesses that are caused by this phenomena. So what is the answer to preventing and reversing and fixing this problem? Well, really the answer is preventative medicine in general, prioritizing nutrition and lifestyle. In other words, eating a nutrient-dense diet and minimizing the stressors that can deplete those nutrients. So that is going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like, subscribe, comment what you'd like to see next, and we will see you in the next one.